We got 4 number 1 seeds, only the second time in tournament history that has happened. We have Duke, we got Houston, we got Florida, and we got Auburn. Tournament to date, TNT, TBS, True TV, and CBS, the audience for the complete tournament is flat. They were up in the early rounds, but you had some lower Elite 8 numbers. Some of that due to last year, you had higher HUT levels with that Elite 8 Sunday falling on Easter Sunday, more people gathering around TVs. You had a lot of blowouts also in this Elite 8 round. You have to be happy. You have 4 number 1 seeds, probably going to see an increase. Mollie, what do you make of the 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four for the men's side?
I mean, you got 4 really strong brands in there, right? I mean, you got the star power of Cooper Flag. That's going to draw huge with Duke. And the games are on CBS this year versus True TV, TBS, TNT last year, which those games do outdraw some CBS games, but the power of broadcast, you've got to be happy if you're the NCAA and CBS.
Yeah, they're going to be coming off those record low numbers they've seen, really kind of low numbers the last 2 years. Obviously, it got killed by the women's title game last year. The men's title game did a very unique tournament for the women's side last year. Well, now let's go over to the women's side. You have 3 number 1 seeds there and a 2 seed that may be even better and more popular. Got to be happy for the NCAA and ESPN over there. You got UCLA, you got Texas, you got South Carolina looking to do it again, and you got upstart. I hate calling them upstart, but they're the only 2 seed that's in the Final Four in UConn. What do you make of the Final Four on the women's side?
Well, Coach Gino actually said after they won their Elite Eight matchup, hey, he said to SVP, you're calling UConn an underdog? You got to be happy, as you said, if you're the NCAA and ESPN. You've got these 4 very powerhouse brands. UCLA never made a Final Four before. A superstar in Lauren Betts. You've got Paige Beckers, who could not be shooting better right now. And then South Carolina, Texas. That's a new SEC rivalry. Will now be the 4th time they've played this season. And Texas beat South Carolina. So it's going to be a fantastic tournament. Austin, you know the numbers better than I do. They will be down from last year, but overall, it's up from 2023.
Up big from 2 years ago. I think I may lose a bet with you, Mollie, who is, especially if UConn makes the national title game and you have a UConn-South Carolina matchup, maybe that does outdraw Iowa LSU from 2 years ago. I still am going to take the under. Iowa LSU may slightly outdraw, but man, I don't think you could have asked for anything better. And the tournament has played out, we're talking about the numbers here, has played out exactly how you would have wanted it. Down big from last year. We knew it was going to do that. Everybody knew that. Everybody knew it was going to happen. It was going to fall 20, 30%, sometimes even 40, 50%, depending on the round. But you're also up 40 or 50% round by round compared to 2 years ago. So it does portend well for the Final Four in the national title game versus 2 years ago. Very curious to see how those comparisons come out.
And 2 years ago, you did have Caitlin Clark all the way through into the title game. So Paige Beckers was the original Caitlin Clark.
It will speak volumes to the future of the sport if the title game can outdraw what that Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark title game drew 2 years ago.
Well, Austin, I'm down in Charlotte next week, so I cannot wait for another steak dinner.
You got to have a steak this time, Mollie. No copping out with a salad. You got to have the steak.
I had a pizza, thank you.
All right, Mollie, let's move on to some football. Some news this week about what the NFL is going to be doing on Christmas. They had the 2 games on Netflix last year on Christmas. Now, because it's falling on a Thursday, Amazon Prime Video also going to have an NFL game, a triple header again on Christmas, really trying to push the NBA out of the scene on Christmas Day. What do you make of all this competition on Christmas Day?
Well, we knew Netflix was interested in keeping that Christmas Day package.
It was a 3-year deal. We knew they were going to have that, but now having that third game, wow,
Yeah.
it's a lot of football.
It's a lot of football. And I mean, Christmas, a traditional NBA holiday. You've seen it over the last few years. The NFL is pushing them out a little bit. And now having that triple header, I don't know how ESPN's going to feel about that.
Well, they're probably going to be pissed. They're probably pissed off. You're pissed off if you're NBA because, I mean, what did you have to do last year? They were all on ABC, and that really helped out the numbers this year on the ABC side, and it has helped them kind of go from really down heading into Christmas to they're going to be maybe down 1% to 2% or even flat. Very impressive finish for the NBA to the regular season. But just looking at next season, looking at Christmas, you're a little bummed if you're the ESPN and the NBA that you're getting kind of boxed out.
It also depends on what the matchups are for the NFL on Christmas Day.
But does it really matter? It's NFL games and it's Christmas. And Netflix already showed that they could draw around 24 million viewers for both of those games. Those are Christmas big holiday type numbers.
Well, I wonder which superstars are going to have halftime perform this year.
I know. Who do you want? If you could pick the performer, Mollie, who do you want to see at halftime?
Oh, I would say Taylor Swift, but she's not going to do it. So who? Ooh, Chapel Roan. I would love to see Chapel Roan do an NFL halftime show.
We're going to the Pink Pony Club, Mollie, you and I. Molly, sticking with the NFL, our football writer Ben Fisher was at the annual meetings for the NFL, and something that came out of those is that they're going to allow less time for Thursday Night Flex. And by that, I mean they're going to shorten the window that the NFL has to give notice to move a different game into that Prime Video window. What do you make of the decision?
It's not surprising to me, honestly. And you and I just talked about how there's going to be a Thursday night football game on Christmas. The NFL clearly values its deal with Amazon. So giving Amazon those important windows, those big matchups, it's showing how much it values the streaming partnership.
It's what every partner wants. They're paying a lot of money and they want the best matchup possible. And it is tough to turn around for a Thursday night, but like giving Prime Video as much flexibility as possible to get those best matchup, it does show that the NFL is being a good partner.
Prime Video has only flexed one game in the past, and that was last year. It was initially supposed to be a trial in 2023, but it wasn't used. Last year it was used in week 16 when the NFL swapped out a Bengals-Browns game for Broncos-Chargers. And remember, right now, Thursday changes are only permitted in weeks 13 through 17, and it can only be 2 per year. So it's not necessarily a huge shift in what's happening. And Austin, the window is shrinking from 28 days to 21 days, and that was a vote of 26-6, and it needed 24 to pass.
I think 21 days is more than enough, so I think this is a good compromise for this season.
Austin, sticking with football, UFL had its season opener. We talked about this last week, but this was the first time it was on that Friday night Fox window. Very unique for it. How did it do?
I only got around 690,000 viewers. I mean, I kind of expected more. I knew it wasn't going to hit what Fox had in that WWE window last year. It was around 2.2 million viewers. You knew it wasn't going to get to that. You knew it wasn't going to be what Fox got for maybe, college football, replacing WWE also on Friday nights during that season. Also in that 1 to 2 million range, sometimes even higher. I thought the game would have been a little better. It's very low compared to what Fox was getting for the UFL last season, even on a Saturday or a Sunday in an afternoon window. They went up against some Sweet 16 action on the men's and women's side. That probably hurt it a little bit. Later on in the season, they'll have those windows kind of to themselves. What is this audience kind of equivalent to? It's like what ABC has been getting for a Saturday night NHL game, or it's what like IndyCar got for its race out in California at Thermal Club the other week. So I did think the numbers, even with some March Madness competition, would have been a little higher for that debut on Fox in primetime.
Well, UFL is still a relatively new property. It's still finding its fans, still building its audience. And as you said, later in the season, it will have that window a little bit more exclusively.
And it's better than some other stuff that has been out there in primetime, newer properties like, it's better than what TGL was able to draw. So it's still football. It's still going to draw an audience, but no, I don't think everyone was tuning in for the marquee Roughnecks Battlehawks matchup that they all remember from back in the day. All right, Maya, let's step off of the gridiron, go onto the ice. The NHL signed a big new deal with Rogers in Canada this week, a 12-year deal, huge uptick from that prior Canadian media rights deal. What stood out to you from the new pact?
When this deal went to market, there was a speculation that Amazon could take a significant chunk of that package. It's interesting to me that Rogers kept it all. As you said, 12 years, $7.7 billion deal. The number's higher than I expected, but it does show the value of hockey in Canada. And it also freezes out the other national broadcast network, TSN, from broadcast rights again. But they do have regional rights to a couple teams. That's the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens, the Senators, and the Jets. But there's also still the potential that Amazon subleases some of those games from Rogers, which in the last rights deal, they had the Monday night package. I do see more of that coming.
I guess if you're Rogers, you have to be happy that some of the Canadian NHL teams are doing a lot better. You had the Oilers and Connor McDavid that run to a Game 7 last year. Up-and-coming team there. They're going to continue to be strong. That's what Rogers wanted to see. They really haven't had, during this last deal, a lot of strength in those Canadian teams. The Maple Leafs were always bowing out early. They could not make it past the first or the second round. So that's what Rogers wants to see, strength in Canada. And, the numbers down here in the U.S., they're actually kind of soft this season. That national viewership across ESPN, ABC, and TNT, down around 10% as we head into the final stretch here for the NHL. All right, Molly, let's close things out with a couple of quick hitters. You reported in your newsletter on Monday that the NWSL is finally out there selling that 5th package. Could be a Sunday night deal. They got 2 more years before that media rights deal comes up. What was the biggest takeaway for you?
Well, they're out there looking for a 2-year deal that would start in 2026. That very likely be Sunday night. That's what they're out there shopping for. That builds on the appointment viewing they have Friday night with Amazon and Saturday night with Ion. So that's a really good kind of set of appointment viewing for them. What's interesting to me is that I did report that advertising inventory is sold out across its four existing partners, which is very true and was part of the reason that fifth package is out in the market. But the biggest reason is because of expansion. There's two new teams coming last year. That's Boston and Denver, and that gives a whole new set of inventory for the league, and there's just so much demand for it. And then after the 2027 season, that entire package is going out to market again. So who knows what that'll look like, but those conversations will start next year. Austin, can you break this down for me? Prime Video and Kyle Larson are teaming up as our resident sports documentary expert. What's going on?
Well, Molly, I prefer sports documentary nut job, but I will settle for expert. That's fine. I am kind of interested in this. Kyle Larson has attempted to do the double in the past couple of years. What is the double for those not familiar? That's trying to drive the Indy 500, taking a private jet, and trying to do the Coca-Cola 600 in my backyard here in Charlotte. Can he accomplish that? He hasn't really been able to do it. Weather has been a factor and accidents, at races in the past. So they're going to follow him. And it's not just this year. They've been kind of filming this over the course of a couple of years. I think it's an interesting approach. The documentary wouldn't come out until next year. But I also think it's something interesting to talk about Prime Video and its sports documentaries. They have had a ton of them, investing heavily in the space. And there's an interesting feed I follow out there, the entertainment strategy guy, and he had an article about how just in the back half of 2024, a lot of those Prime documentaries on the sports side in particular, whether it's around the Madden NFL game or otherwise, a lot of those have been flops in terms of the streaming numbers that Prime Video has been able to achieve. So I'm very interested about this and how sports documentaries continue to perform on Prime Video. I don't know that they're having the same audience success that maybe a Netflix is having with its documentary series.
Amazon doesn't necessarily love to share its numbers, so I don't know exactly how we're measuring that, but also this is not an easy feat, right? Go Indy 500 to 600 NASCAR?
No, not very many people have attempted it. I know Tony Stewart tried it back in the day, but yeah, there's a reason that there's such interest in maybe a documentary about this because trying to get this done is an achievement in sports for sure.
Well, and it's good branding for Prime Video too, because that Amazon Prime Video branding is going to be on both of Larson's race cars. So that when you're watching it on TV too, you're going to be blasted with Amazon as it goes.
And Amazon, a new NASCAR partner, easy tie in there. All right, Molly, we'll wrap things up with this. Our colleague Adam Stern also reported that the NHRA has retained Octagon to help with its media rights strategy. How do you think Octagon could give an assist to the drag racing series?
Austin, they can help them with visibility. Look what Fox is doing with IndyCar and NASCAR, what the CW is doing with NASCAR. You got to think that NHRA wants to be out there in that same way.
Absolutely. You talked about IndyCar. They did a lot of promotion. You saw Super Bowl promotions for IndyCar coming to Fox during the big game. Also with MotoGP, Fox just got that package, and so they've been promoting them. And I think the NHRA has felt a little slighted, so maybe they want to see, other dance partners out there. All right, Molly, before we get to Mike Mazzio to talk some baseball, this week in sports media history, April 2nd, 1984, that was 41 years ago, Georgetown, the Hoyas, beat Houston, the Cougars, a program in this weekend's Final Four, 84-75 in the NCAA Men's Basketball National Championship game. Georgetown's John Thompson became the first African-American head coach to lead his team to any NCAA Division I title. But Molly, this also showed, I think, the power of brand. This game on CBS, Georgetown and Houston, 25.1 million viewers. The NCAA men's title game wouldn't dip below 26 million viewers again until 2000. So it does show you got to have some name recognition there.
Yes, the power of brands, Austin, but it could also have been a little bit of Houston fatigue. This was their third consecutive Final Four and second consecutive title game. People might have just been tired of watching Houston. Who knows what'll happen this year?
Now, thank God UConn isn't in the men's title game again on the men's side.
Nah, just hopefully in the women's.